Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're enjoying the new background. I hope you're enjoying a little bit less white noise. I will admit, working out of this new area is a little bit of a pain, and I do think I'm putting a little bit too much weight on my wife's desk. It's not actually bolted into any studs. I used basically drywall anchors, about the equivalence of 300 pounds worth. Granted, the math doesn't necessarily work out that way for those sorts of things, but me leaning on it is making the wall crack a little bit, so maybe I need to calm down. I'm really hoping you're liking the pattern. Yeah, that's not stone. I actually painted that myself, so it comes out nice. As you can see, there are already a couple of grades on this card. Well, on the sheet. Well, that's because there was a disturbance while trying to film. Luckily, it was only in the first two cards, so we're just gonna go ahead and restart. Starting out is a Meganinium from Breakpoint. And to be honest, I'm not really impressed with this hollow foil type. Uh, at least, yeah, it's different than the original hollow foil, and it's a lot easy. It's a lot harder to scratch. The front of this card looked pretty decent. Very minor centering off left to right, but everything about the front looked great. However, the back has some whitening here and there, and that's why that blue background comes in handy. Because if I show it over white, see the corner, see this for example, visible, hardly visible, pretty much invisible. And you can see a lot more shows up along the edge. I was being pretty critical on myself. Went ahead and said 8 for PSA. So we won't send this card to BGS or CGC. We really think this is, just a better off going to the PSA. And then, as I was saying, I think people are going to really like this episode in terms of the card the Pokemon that's involved for the rest of this. So it'll be 9 cards of Dragonite. So we've got a first edition Fossil Dragonite. Uh, this card centering all around is great. There's like some smudges, very minor smudging though. On the back though, there is whitening all around. It's minor, but it's there and it's all around. So we went ahead and it's decently thick on the top. So we went ahead and just 7 to 8. Um, but maybe we'll get lucky. Still PSA though for that one. Go ahead and put that away. And then next, Dragonite. Except this Dragonite is Roaring Skies. I'm pretty certain you can get him in hollow. I'm pretty certain I have them in hollow somewhere. Oh, cameras are freaking out. Centering is off. It's going to be kind of a hit. The rest of the card looks like to be in, fine condition. I pulled off a piece of dirt. Some people will, a lot of people will say don't do that. I think you're fine as long as you're really not scratched in there. If it comes off pretty easily, 1 to 3 tries, you're probably fine. But there's always that risk that it'll rip part of the card with it, and really it's also a matter of how stuck on there it is. So I wouldn't suggest doing it unless you kind of know what you're doing. Some whitening, some whitening. The top looks fine, and some whitening on the corners. I still think this can be sent to the PSA, possible 7 to 8. So we'll continue to send to the PSA. So far, the PSA is getting lucky. I mean, we'd rather send cards to the BGS, just in our opinion, that means that they, are BGS worthy. But I'd rather send cards to the PSA than the CGC. And also, I know the submission system for the PSA. Next up is another Dragonite, as I said. This one is from Plasma Freeze. Would have been cool if they would have made a ice version. Now this hollow foil to me is pretty cool. The only way they could have done this better is if they had the lines going with him. So either have him flying completely horizontal, like there's speed lines coming off of him, or have the lines still going off of him, but in the diagonal pattern. This is a different hollow foil pattern to me. I like it. I believe other PokeTubers have mentioned that these era of cards have had a lot of print issues, and I think for this era, it looks like it's a lot of centering and a slight missed corner cut. The centering is off. Everything else on the front is great. We're already kind of down to 9-8 though, just because of how off the left to right centering is. So it's something wrong with the back. Minor whitening, centering is a little bit better on the back, but mainly minor whitening. It's a decent nick. I'm gonna say 7 to 8. If it wasn't for the centering and that was all there was, I would say 8 to 9. But I think 7 to 8, and I still think PSA for this one. So, hoorah! 78 PSA. Up next is another Dragonite. It is Dark Dragonite, non-hollow, and no, it is not the print error. I wish it was. Centering's wonky in terms of it's a little thicker on top, and it's almost kind of like wavy on top. Left to right's good. Little smudge, but it... Well, hold on. Is that a smudge, or is that actually part of the card? And again, the secret of doing this, and this is if you have a soup. Now that's a smudge for sure. I can feel it. That looks like that's part of the card. And see, this is the one I was referring to, and if the white covers it up, it's part of the card. Smudge will sit over the white, so... And you can usually feel a smudge. I don't want to go at that too much, because I can do more good than... Do more harm than good. Some serious whiting there. This might still sit in the PSA 7 range. That might be high, but we're just going to guess a flat 7 and still send it to the PSA. We're not too iffy on if our Dragonites come back a little lower, because Dragonite is pretty heavily collected, and so, I mean, of course we want higher grades, but up next, really cool one in my opinion, ooh, nice swirl, is the same card, but hollow foil. Definitely has a lot of scratches, but again, it's that original WotC hollow foil. It gets scratches really easily. Centering's a little weird, but it's weird together, so that's fine. Front looks pretty decent. Not quite certain what to say about it, but yeah, even with those surface scratches, I'd say you're probably still sitting on a 9. I know that seems weird, but really, I think that's a possibility. Now this brings it down to that 7 to 8 category, especially these corners are now sitting on basically just a 7. And so we'll say flat 7, and we will still send it in. I really believe, because I've sent in cards that were fairly scratched up and got way higher than I thought they would. I think the PSA is very aware that those WotC cards are very hard to get, and that goes into account for... Oh, I see. The one Dragonite was a first edition. This one is a non-first edition. So make sure when you guess your grades, you say first edition fossil non-hollow. And for this one, you just say fossil non-hollow. Make sure you guess the grades. Nothing seems to be wrong with the front. Centering seems to be really fantastic. There is whitening all around. But it's very minor. I think 7 to 8. I do think possible 8. And mainly the centering really does kind of save it. The whitening doesn't help. But I say 7 to 8, and I'm actually kind of hopeful on that 8 side, and that'll still go to PSA. Wow, so far all the cards on this list are going to PSA. Let's see if that continues. Up next, same card, but hollow foil, and to me, this is just one of the coolest hollow foils. He has all that multi-background. Centering looks pretty good. A little bit off left to right. He does have a slight damage up top. Some scratches in the hollow foil, but it's not the end of the world, to be honest. How's the back? Not my favorite. There's some pretty good sized dings on the bottom. This is sitting closer to a 6. I don't think I really want to send it to the CGC though. I think I'm still going to go ahead and send it as a 6 to the PSA, and we might just get surprised. We might. I've seen cards that I have sent in very similar condition to the PSA that have come back in 8. We'll say 6. Up next is a Sun and Moon Dragonite Reverse Hollow. Looks like he's having a good time. It's not my favorite art of him. Some scratches in the reverse hollow. Really big dragon symbol with smaller symbols. It's a really cool way of doing reverse hollow. Centering looks fine. No real whitening. Centering on the back is a little bit off, but not too off. Some whitening and some small nicks. Centering's a little off though. I think PSA 7. I'd rather guess low than high, folks. That's just what I'd rather do. Wow, I do believe actually all of these cards will actually go to the PSA. That's a first in a while. I have to recomb some of my original. Oh, this might be a VGS. So this is a Dragonite EX from Furious Fist. Centering looks fine. We'll see it more so on the back. It's a really good card. Really fantastic. Now, I think they still do first edition cards, but for me, it's really hard to tell what is so the back isn't perfect. It's got some decently sized whitening. I think it's very visible up front. We're looking closer to a 7 now. PSA still. So it looks like all the cards are going to PSA. I do want to say 7 to 8, but I think I'm being greedy when I say 8 for that. Maybe I'll go ahead and say it. 7 to 8. See what happens. I really hope y'all enjoyed pretty much Dragonite on Dragonite on Dragonite. To me, it was fun making this one, going through these. Looks like a pretty steady set of 7. So we'll see what happens. We'll let you know when the PSA sends these back, or when they finally allow us to submit cards in 2050, and they send them back to us in 2100. Thanks for watching. Bye.